Sean Dyche reacts to Tottenham links. A Spurs supporters group says no to Zerbi. The Tottenham women lose 5-2 to Arsenal in the North London derby. And an international roundup. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Lee and this is the daily Tottenham news headlines. I'm here to talk about all the news, reports and rumours coming out today. If you're watching on YouTube, please do consider subscribing to the channel, like, share and comment in the comment section below. If you're listening on audio platforms, please do consider following and giving us a review if you can. So, day 7, still no news on the managerial situation. However, Sean Dyche on TalkSport on Saturday, and he has laughed off the links to Tottenham Hotspur. He said the following, and I'm not going to do the accent. It's brilliant. Honestly, I was in the pub just up the way near my place. I've got down there and the guy goes, you're meant to be in talks with Tottenham tonight. And I say, I'm sat here next to you having a pint of Guinness. So it's unlikely, unless you work for Spurs. I'm there at the Seven Stars pub having a pint of Guinness. So I said, it's highly unlikely. No, I'm not in talks. I'm with you and I'm on TalkSport. That's what we're doing. To give you an inside view, when you're a manager, you know you're going to get asked at some point, and whatever part of your career, if you're doing all right, you get asked and you try to be respectful, because let's use Tottenham as an example, a brilliant club, massive club and all the rest of it. And one of my first ever memories is Ricky Villa's goal. And so you say, yeah, I'm flattered. And social media say, he hasn't said no. And then you go, no. And they say, he wants it really. So you say, yes. And they say, I knew he wanted it. So what can you say? Very good. A report published by BBC states that Tottenham should not appoint former Marseille manager Roberto De Zerbi because of his support for Mason Greenwood, says a women's fans group. De Zerbi, who has been suggested as a potential replacement for under pressure interim manager Igor Tudor, signed former England forward Greenwood during his time at the French club. Greenwood, 24, left Manchester United in 2023 after charges against him, including assault, were dropped in November. De Zerbi described Greenwood as a good guy who had paid a heavy price. The group, whose aim is to eradicate sexism and misogyny in football, said, this is not an appointment Tottenham Hotspur should make. Tottenham have won only 1 point in 5 Premier League matches under Tudor and are 1 point and 1 place above the relegation zone. Italian De Zerbi, who left Marseille in February, has been reported as the replacement this season or during the summer. He spent 2 successful seasons at Brighton, leading them into Europe before leaving for Marseille in 2024. In November, De Zerbi said of Greenwood, it saddens me what's happened in his life, because I know a totally different person than the one who has been described. Proud Lily White, Spurs official LGBTQ plus fans group, said, when someone is in that position publicly defends a player like Mason Greenwood and frames it in that way, that downplays the seriousness of what happened. It matters not just in isolation, but in what it signals. Spurs Reach, Tottenham's official race, ethnicity and cultural heritage fans group, said, regardless of intent, framing of this nature risks normalising harmful attitudes. The Proud Lily White's statement is as follows. We've seen reports linking Roberto De Zerbi to Tottenham, and honestly, it doesn't sit right. As Proud Lily Whites, we care deeply about this club, not just what happens on the pitch, but what it stands for off it. This isn't about results or style of football, it's about values, identity and the kind of people we choose to represent us. Football doesn't exist in a vacuum. Clubs set standards whether they intend to or not, and those standards shape how people feel, who feels welcome and what behaviour it's seen as acceptable. Spurs is at a point where it needs to rebuild not just results but culture. The environment around the team at the training ground and beyond has to be intentional and consistent. It has to reflect the values of the club and what the club says it stands for. The manager plays a huge role in that. They set the tone every day through what they say, what they overlook and what they defend. It all adds up. For many of us, this isn't something we can separate from football. It's part of what it means to support the club. We all want Spurs to move forward, but how we do that matters. When someone in that position publicly defends a player like Mason Greenwood and frames it in a way that downplays the seriousness of that, and what's happened, it matters not just because in isolation, but what it signals. We are proud of the progress that's been made, making football more inclusive and welcoming. That progress matters. It cannot be compromised and treated as secondary. We are not asking for perfection. We are asking for accountability, transparency and leadership that reflects the values of the club, all together, always. That has to mean something. No to Zerbi. On Saturday evening, the Spurs women were in the WSL action away at Arsenal. Tottenham lost the game 5-2. Spurs remain 5th in the Women's Super League. Arsenal go up to 2nd in the league table. Tottenham's women boss Martin Ho said his team were up against the best team in the world right now. Spurs have conceded 10 goals in the last 2 games and have lost the last 3 WSL games. Beth England made her 200th WSL appearance. Spurs face Chelsea away next in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. The game will be played on Bank Holiday Monday, the 6th of April at 1:30. Now for some international roundup. There were wins across the board as 4 more players featured in internationals on Friday night. First to kick off with Kevin Danso's Austria as they hosted the country of his heritage, Ghana, in a friendly in Vienna. Our centre-back was in form from the start to earn his 31st cap and played for the first 45 minutes. Replaced in a host of changes at half-time, Kevin watched on as his side won 5-1. Elsewhere, there was a 2-1 victory for the Netherlands. Mickey van der Ven and Xavi Simons, as well as Argentina's Christian Romero in their respective friendlies. Mickey made his 18th cap with a start at left-back as the Dutch faced Norway at the Johan Cruyff Arena, where they found themselves a goal behind after for 24 minutes. The home spot side responded and equalised through Van Dijk's header on 35 minutes before the Netherlands turned the game around 6 minutes after the restart. Xavi was introduced on the 70th minute for his 33rd cap as the Netherlands saw out victory in Amsterdam. Overnight in Argentina, Christian Romero led his nation out against Mauritania and played the full game on his 48th cap. As the first half, strikers from Fernandez and stunning Paz free kick put them in command. Messi's introduction at half-time meant he took over as captain in a second half where the African side refused to give up against the World Cup holders and the opponents grabbed a late consolation in stoppage time. Back in Europe, Pedro Porro was an unused substitute as Spain beat Serbia 3-0. Dominic Solanke lined up alongside Jed Spence as England conceded late to draw 1-1 with Uruguay in an international friendly at Wembley Stadium on Friday evening. Making his first start for the Three Lions, Dom admirably led the line, with the striker linking up playing nicely, constantly harrying the opposition's back line and bringing a save from the Uruguay goalkeeper with a loop-in header in a busy, bustling 56 minutes on his 4th cap. Jed also earning cap number 4, impressed at left-back role with a typical dynamic performance and combined well with Marcus Rashford down the left flank to cause the Uruguay defenders problems, with one dazzling piece of skill linked to a certain former Spurs number 14. From the corner in the 81st minute, which was set up a chaotic end to the contest. Uruguay equalised with their first shot on target when Valverde dispatched a late penalty in stoppage time. Up next, Dom and Jed's nation host Japan at Wembley on the Tuesday the 31st of March with a 7:45 kickoff in what will be England's last outing on home soil before the summer 2026 World Cup in the United States, Canada in Mexico. In young Lions action on Friday, Archie Gray and Ashley Phillips were unused substitutes as England's under-21 salvaged a late 1-1 draw in Andorra, with Rico Lewis scoring a 90th minute penalty. This was the first time Lee Carsley's side have dropped points in European under-21 Championship qualifying after 6 games in Group D. They host Moldova on Tuesday night, 7 p.m. kickoff. Meanwhile, in Group B, James Wilson entered the action for Scotland's under-21s on the hour mark in their goalless draw with the Czech Republic. Pat Matassar featured as a second-half substitute for Senegal in their 2-0 friendly win against Peru on the outskirts of Paris on Saturday. The midfielder stepped up from the bench with 10 minutes remaining, and with his side already 2 goals to the good, helping them see out the final stages. So there you have it. That's all the news and headlines making us aware today. So just to give you some of my thoughts on some of this, 2 of the big stories, I guess. Sean Dyche. I do like Sean Dyche. He's a funny guy. He's very comical in the way he comes across. He's very straightforward and so on. He is a real character, a proper character in the game. I personally wouldn't be upset if Tottenham actually did sign Sean Dyche for the last 7 games of the season. I've said it before. I don't really want him as a long-term manager. Don't see it as a real long-term fit. But to keep us in the league, I think he would probably be one of the ones that would do it. But it seems that still 7 days later, after the drubbing by Forest, we are still no closer to knowing who our manager is going to be and what are we going to do going forward. Are we going to stick with Tudor and just see it out, or are they going to make a change? Now seems the best time to do that if you're going to make a change. And lots of rumours are talking about Monday being deadline day. Why Monday would be deadline day, I don't know. As I understand it, Tudor has already had the funeral of his father and so on. So it wouldn't be out of respect, I wouldn't have thought, unless it's, of course, they want to talk to him and see where his head's at the same time. But at this moment in time, doesn't seem like Dyche is anywhere near it, along with every other name that's kind of been bandied around. I guess the biggest story to talk about is the reports around several groups suggesting that Zerbi should not come to Tottenham because of his comments around Mason Greenwood. It's a really difficult one and a really delicate issue. Of course, from a pure supporter's point of view, what you want is the best manager for the job for Tottenham, who's going to take them forward, who's going to win us games and play the sort of football that we want, and so on. On a political or I don't know what the word is, on a political level, I guess, there are issues around what he said for a lot of people. Now, I have seen lots of comments online regarding these sort of statements that have been very anti what they're saying and so on. So it is a very mixed bag. I don't believe that these groups particularly represent all Tottenham fans. They'll represent a certain demographic of Tottenham fans, of course, and have their opinions on this sort of thing. And then equally, there are other people that will have their opinions on this. If you look at what the part that was quoted, where Zerbi said that Greenwood is a good guy, he's paid a heavy price, and where was the other comment? And he said along the lines of it's difficult considering what's happened, and he doesn't see who they are reporting about. And I think that's the point that he's trying to make, is that there are two sides to this individual. Of course, we've seen the videos, we've heard the WhatsApp's comments and audios and stuff, and absolutely, we were all horrified by what Mason Greenwood did to his partner. However, Mason Greenwood was never found guilty. The case was dropped. His partner didn't want to press charges. They've moved abroad, had a child. I believe they're having another child. And we have heard no more about that side of Mason Greenwood. So there is obviously more to this story than just what's reported in the press. But of course, no one wants to sit there and say, violence against women is okay. It isn't okay. But I don't believe that that's what De Zerbi is trying to say. What he's trying to, I guess, get out there is, look, this is a young man. He's gone through some stuff. We don't know the detail of what that might be. It may be some addiction issues, maybe some mental health issues, maybe some cultural issues of how he was brought up. I don't know. We just don't know. That's the point I'm making. And of course, if he has fixed that relationship with his partner and they are now happy and so on, everyone has a right to their own opinion and everyone has a right to their own life and to live their life, hopefully, in the right way. So a very difficult scenario. I don't think you can stop a person from making a living because of mistakes they've made. I think it would be good, and I think I said this previously, for De Zerbi to come out and be clear on what he actually meant by this kind of by his comments. What was his meaning? Because bear in mind, this was probably reported in a French newspaper or an interview or whatever, and things get misconstrued or taken out of context or whatever. So you've got to be absolutely careful. I don't think De Zerbi has ever said it's okay to be violent towards women or anyone. So it would be interesting to see what his real view and what he actually meant by this before anyone says you can't be the manager. Now, if he's not good enough or not the right fit for Tottenham, that's a different story, because this is about sporting performance, not about political agendas or social justices, I guess. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below what you think of this. Like I say, there's been one side saying one thing, one side saying the other. I think it's a big debate, but of course, football is not adverse to these kind of stories. We've seen it with, Gazzo got accused of attacking his wife. I think going all the way back to an Arsenal player who was in trouble for underage sex. We've had the issues with Thomas Partey and how that was handled. I think the Man City goalkeeper. There's loads of these kind of things that have gone on, and football is a mirror of society, and all different people come into it. I don't know if I'm rambling or whatever, and I'm sure there'll be people that agree with me and people that disagree with me. What I'm trying to do is kind of put a sensible argument that we don't know all the details, we don't know all the answers, and it would be better to clarify that before we make a judgment about whether someone should or should not be allowed to work going forward. And let me just say, this is my opinion. I'm not representing Chris or anybody else on the channel, so don't go at Chris and say, who is this guy? He's saying that you believe this. This is about what I think and how I believe it should move forward. So yeah, that's kind of my two pennyworth for what it's worth. Moving on to the WSL, I'm not going to lie, I am not an expert on WSL. I don't watch WSL, but of course, any time that Tottenham lose to Arsenal is difficult and not something you want to read. Wasn't grateful to have to read that out, that they've got absolutely spanked by Arsenal, but Arsenal are a very, very good women's football team. And I don't think that was unexpected. Hopefully, Martin Ho, now that he has got a long-term deal, he can start taking the club forward into the right direction and getting the sort of players and so on that he needs to really sort of drive it forward. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and try to lecture anyone on women's football. It's not something I really know about. And in terms of the internationals, yeah, bit of a mixed bag in there. You know, it's good to see the players are kind of playing bit parts rather than all on 90 minutes, apart from Romero, because it kind of just keeps them fresh, keeps them going. I don't think it's right for them to sit on their backsides at home for 2 weeks and not be able to play football. Is good for their, you know, to keep their rhythm up and get back from injury and so on. Good to see some good words about Jed Spence and Dom Solanke. By all accounts, it was a very dull game, as lots of England games tend to be in these sorts of things. So yeah, I you know, for me, Harry Kane's got to be in that team. I think Dom's taking on a very difficult job there. The next striker who has to take over when Harry Kane stops is going to have a real problem, because you're going to have to really step up, and that's not going to be easy because Harry Kane is out there on his own. But yeah, so interesting to see how he does get on. They do need to utilise him, and of course it will give him a little bit more opportunity to get back some of that fitness that he needs, and kind of working on his own performance. So yeah, good to see he's in there. Jed Spence as well, coming under a lot of flack I've seen as well online about not singing the national anthem and chewing gum. It's not for everybody, is it? You know, not everybody's Stuart Pearce who bangs it out, you know, with his hand on his heart sort of thing. But Jed is a proud Englishman and wants to play for his country. And if he's good enough, he should be in there and playing. So fair play to him. I'm not a fan of chewing gum myself personally, so you know, I'd rather he wasn't doing that. But these are young men who are maybe not as in that patriotic, banging it out like Stuart Pearce did, you know, that sort of thing. You know, it's not for everybody. Not everybody's that sort of character. So a little bit of unfair criticism, but you know, that's the world we live in, isn't it? With social media, everyone's got an opinion, and they like to voice them. A bit like me sitting here now talking to you. Anyway, listen. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you getting through. If you're getting through these 20 odd minutes of me rambling on, be really interested in your comments around the Zerbi scenario. Be good to know whether I'm making a sensible argument or whether I'm talking utter rubbish. It'd be good to know that. So, as I said at the beginning, please do subscribe to Chris's channel. It helps the algorithm. All the likes, the hypes, comments are all really helpful. It'd be really good to have you along for the ride. As I said, I'm Lee. I'm actually Lee the Dorset Spur. Got my own YouTube channel. Please do feel free to come along and subscribe to me and watch any of my videos. I do put out sort of daily content. Yeah, you'll find me everywhere that's there. And of course, last but not least, if you're listening on audio platforms, please do hit the follow button, leave a review. That would be absolutely fantastic. Yeah, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching, everyone. Up the Spurs.